Hi, my name's Alysa and I've been studying press and editorial photography at Falmouth University for the past 4 years. I'm going to be talking to you about my development as a photographer throughout my past, present at university and my future for my PEP340 submission. So let's just get started, shall we? I've been interested in photography for years. I first started taking pictures to document my life in secondary school. I went to school in a very rural area and took a ferry to and from school each day, so I felt that the natural beauty that I saw each day was inspiration for me to pick up my camera. Throughout my secondary and sixth form education, photography was at the forefront of my studies. I focused specifically on photography in my GCSEs and took photography as an A-level. A lot of my photography at the time was based around exposing human fears and thoughts, and I had a really keen interest in portraiture that's stuck by me since. I was massively inspired by photographers including Alysa, Joshua Hoffin and Annie Leibovitz. One of my most memorable projects was in an A2 exam where I collaborated with a local care home, so I photographed and interviewed all the elderly people there, and I was extremely interested in people's stories at this time in my education. Being a very curious and empathetic person, I've always been really infatuated with other people's perceptions of reality, their morals and how they see the world. I took a lot of inspiration from August Sanders and Robert Capa due to their abilities to portray emotion and personality in their work, and this really influenced my photographic style at the time. And after shooting family and friends, looking at their career choices and life paths, I decided to work backwards, and instead of looking at what they made of their lives, what their lives brought to them early on in their time on this earth. So I took portraits, attempting to capture each person's personality, and paired their portraits with handwritten extracts of their earliest memories, which I collated in interview conversation with each person. The final piece showed a series of framed diptychs with a mixture of digital and physical outcomes. For the photographs, I edited each image with high contrast and high HDR. I did keep the photographs in grayscale to emulate the theme of each person's younger years when colour photography wasn't available. So I intended to show a modern take on a traditional photography style with my heavy editing and lack of colour in the final images. I unfortunately don't have the final images saved, as I wasn't aware at the time of the appeal of keeping both original and final images, but I've learned to always save original, edited and finished images due to this mistake. This project really encouraged me to apply for the press and editorial photography course, as previously I'd been conditionally accepted for the photography course, so my styles of shooting had gone from one of an experimental fantasy, which was inspired mainly by Joshua Hoffin, the shoot should be coming up on the screen now, to one of straight documentation, and so I applied for press and editorial photography. Moving on to my first year at Falmouth, one of the first projects that I took on when coming to university was PEP340's Person at Work. This was my first real experimentation with music photography, as I shot a music artist named Ratboy at his Southwest Mono production show at Old Press and Ed Hub, Mono, rest in peace Mono. I spent the afternoon with the band and management, getting to know the people behind the sound, and then shot their gig later in the evening. From my earlier shoots in my teens, I learnt the importance of getting to know your subjects. Being able to put the model at ease when holding a camera in front of them is a difficult feat as it is, never mind when the person doesn't actually know anything about you. I feel that human connection is extremely important when shooting portraiture. It's necessary to be able to push past the front that all people put up when they feel vulnerable, to be able to accurately portray their true selves. I wasn't aware of any music photographers at this time, so walked into this opportunity completely blindsided. It was quite nerve-wracking to be trying something new, but my love for live music made it quite easy to see the positives of the opportunity, even in the beginning of the shoot. The experience taught me how to step out of my comfort zone as a photographer, having never shot music professionally before, and making sure to get to know the subject before shooting them to ensure the most accurate portrayal of the character in their final images. I see this as essential for my practice due to my photographs and video being centred around people and interacting with their personalities, both on stage and off. As previously said, it's impossible to accurately depict a person if you haven't got to know them prior to shooting, in my opinion. One lesson I really learnt from this shoot and have carried with me since is a very basic one. Always make sure that you're shooting in RAW before you start pressing the shutter. Unfortunately, I didn't remember to do this for this shoot, and so editing through the images was quite difficult as I was trying not to affect the quality of each photograph. It was very disappointing to see that the quality of each photograph did drop with each edit, and I felt very let down by myself in this instance. Fortunately, the band response didn't even mention the image quality, just their love of the outcomes, and this shoot was my favourite shoot of all time at this point in my photographic career. Music photography became something that I wanted to pursue even just as a hobby after this experience. In this term, we also created a logbook too, focusing on the law and ethics of photography. Having never learnt about this before, I was taught a lot about photograph safety when images are uploaded to the internet, amongst other things, and continue to ensure that metadata is present in all edited photographs before they're sent to clients or exhibited online. Related to this, I also learnt about protecting my rights as a photographer in this term, ensuring that I always have a dated contract with a client before I begin photographing for them. So these are 2 examples of important issues that I ensure to follow into my future as a photographer. During the second term, I took on many projects, including my favourite from my first year, Attitude. This title was given to us in PEP340's module. I chose to look at the attitude to colour theory in fashion, inspired by the use of colour in Mario Testino's work. I adored his use of contrasting colour in portraiture, playing with each model's features to pop contrast with the fashion that he chose to dress them in. I chose a bright yellow sofa as a prop in this studio shoot, working with 3 overhead lights and a white corner studio to draw the viewer's attention to the centre of the image. Overhead lights sit above the model to ensure that each section of the scene is lit, kind of similarly to how lights above dining room tables light up each thing in front of you. I positioned the lights in various places, one directly in front of the model to shine on her face, and 2 on either ends of the sofa to ensure that there were only shadows below the model's feet. I propped the model in the middle of the sofa, as I'd always been a fan of symmetry in images, and dressed her in various outfits using different contrasting and complementary colour schemes. Although one of my favourite outcomes, this was my least favourite shoot with regards to preparation from first year, as I had not practised time management well in this term. With more organisation skills, I could have ensured that the model's pose was exact in every shot. It really bothers me to see that her foot is raised off of the floor in one image. I really established my own schedule after this deadline and sussed out my weaknesses when it comes to shoot preparation. I'm always sure to prepare adequately for a shoot now due to the mistakes I made in this one. I also engaged in a lot of local politics during the second term of first year, taking an active role in the battle against the student increase at the university. I took my camera to protests alongside the residents of Falmouth and attempted to bridge the gap between said residents and the students in this town, speaking to people about their opinions on the issue at hand and ensuring that they knew that not all students agreed with the increase, in fact most of them didn't. This was important to me due to the issues I had previously had in towns where older residents tend to look at me as a threat or rude before even speaking to me. It's always been a mission of mine to show that young people, although perceived poorly in news, are nice people and worth others' time. I didn't want to have the same experience in this town as I had had previously and really wanted to document the situation that was unfolding as well. So shooting from an observer position was a new feat for me. Learning how to take photographs in quick succession and document heated engagements between people were 2 things that I really grasped during this shoot. This was my first experience with documentary press photography, so I understood how to handle myself in uncomfortable situations on this location shoot, and I'm now able to approach these situations with ease. Moving forward to second year, the second year of university broadened my photographic abilities due to the range of genres and mediums that we were encouraged to test. I created multimedia pieces in this year, as well as led seminars with my peers and tried my hands at sports, product and group photographs to name a few new industry experiences. 2 of the most memorable photographs I took in my second year include a studio product shoot where I photographed and promoted Castello's Reserva red wine. I had a vision for this shoot due to preparing and researching for the advertisement, practicing time management, and to prepare for production. I organised a studio booking along with 2 assistants to ensure that production ran smoothly, resulting in my outcome, which was what I had in mind. This was the first shoot in which I led other photographers to a specific outcome. I found the leader in myself in this experimentation and can now say that I'm confident in leading others to ensure the best outcome. The other memorable photograph I took during this year was from a fashion series I curated. Back in the studio with prolific knowledge of studio equipment now, I tested shooting with coloured gels, an idea from being inspired by Testino's colour, which has been mentioned previously, as well as wanting to experiment with composition and line, due to inspiration from Richard Avedon's beautiful portraiture style. I used props for this shoot, as well as contrasting colours, and I also experimented with whites and blacks. I had a very tight schedule for this shoot as well, so learning how to prep and plan for a studio session on extremely short time schedules was something that I became aware of at this time. My studio and management skills improved massively due to my consistency in studio shooting of this year, reflecting in both my outcomes and my ease when visiting the studio in the present. Moving on to multimedia, PEP340 introduced me to shooting documentaries. I found my love for recording video in this term. I see video as a way to bring photographs to life. I know that's a very basic and obvious response, but I love being able to interact with subjects in real life time and showcase that interaction with the audience. It's amazing how photographs can freeze time, and I really do love this about photography, but I also find it amazing how you can really share emotion between the subject and the viewer when shooting video. I learnt so much about different shooting styles, ensuring that I include both detail and wide-angle shots in my films, as well as how to edit recorded audio to ensure the best quality and smoothest playback for viewers. I shoot a lot of video and audio presently and will continue to do so in the future, so this information has proved crucial in my professional career. I found video to be a gap in the market as such, in Falmouth especially. It's something that I know I do well, but also something that I know is desired in the local music community. I'm now really well known as a promotional videographer in Falmouth and beyond. People come to me to ask for my services instead of me reaching out to them. In the summer of second year, I began working with Red Van Records as they wanted me to join their team, leading me to many different music contacts who I work with to this day. In the summer of 2018, at the time I'd made 3 promotional videos, and out of the 3, one was emulated by the BBC, including the soundtrack that I used, and one was nominated for an award, so it seemed fitting to continue on this track, and also shoot photography on the side as something that I enjoy and can use for work also. In the current university year, I've been putting my creativity to the test. After a long bout of serious mental illness over the past couple of years, and coming through the other side, I've been forcing myself to push comfort zones with photography and testing new mediums in which to present my work. PEP340 saw me printing on postcards, creating a public platform to showcase worldwide talent, using video to share my portfolio, and working in a tactile nature with a typewriter and foliage. I chose these mediums to showcase my ability of working across different fields. I also feel passionately about expanding creative knowledge and using your imagination when working, so spanning across different natures of presentation forced me to think outside of my own box. This module gave me the freedom to work without boundaries, reflecting on the styles of photography that I have previously tried and tested, and devising new methods of producing outcome. Taking inspiration from Robert Capa and Tracy Emin, due to Capa's ability to make time stop in his images, and Emin's use of texture in her exhibitions, as well as peers in other sectors, including Leo Forster's architectural work. A recent project of his focuses on turning a derelict viaduct into a natural lush, which inspired me to incorporate nature in my work, and music videos from artists including Billie Eilish, using a very minimalistic style in video editing. I critically reflected on my downfalls in previous projects and worked tirelessly with good time management, interim reflection, and communication with lecturers to ensure the most satisfactory outcome in the sense of personal satisfaction with my own efforts. I played with various softwares including Premiere Pro, Photoshop, DaVinci Resolve, and Illustrator, testing video effects, overlay techniques, and custom paste options for each outcome to ensure that my portfolio incorporated a wide range of mediums and inspirations. Something that I learnt from this module is to push audience engagement to encourage projects to go further in our fast-paced, content-driven world, and to always ensure that products are branded with my logo and social media links for easy cross-platform access. I was really pleased with the outcome I created in this module. I struggled a lot in previous years with mental health, as previously mentioned, and my creativity diminished, so forcing myself to be creative once I felt mentally stable, and having such successful outcomes, has really reignited that trust in myself to succeed. I also received positive feedback on this module too. Having lecturers state that they didn't think that I would come back so well with my work was extremely empowering, and I'm so happy with that. Moving on into this term, my final major project is me working on these lessons, focusing specifically on my branding as a photographer and videographer in the music industry. I've been actively engaging on social media to encourage audience engagement and making myself known in the photographic industry. Creating social media accounts across platforms, updating my website to only include the most relevant portfolio, and ensuring that my branding is consistent, I've specifically addressed the issues from the previous term. Being inspired by nothing other than my drive to succeed in music photography and videography, I'm pushing myself to step out of my comfort zone and get my name out there as a professional in this field. This has been paying off with each week that passes, and I'm attracting more and more commission work from bands across the UK, which is really cool and I'm really happy with that. Reflecting on my time here at Falmouth University, I've learnt so much about the photographic industry and technical application. I'm now fluent in camera speak, which is something that I could not say before, and I'm sure as to which direction I'll be heading in the future. Aiming to be touring freelance with bands as a photographer and videographer, though mainly videographer, in the near future, I seem to be well on my way to making that happen, and I'm so grateful for the lessons that I've learnt along this 4-year journey. I practice professional advice with every shoot that I curate, ensuring that all contracts are sent to clients and received before releasing images and video work. I'm scouted to shoot for bands often. I recently travelled to a Southwest One production event in Exeter with Nathan Ball and Charlotte Lloyd Butler to shoot to a brief. I've collated a vast contact book of music artists worldwide, and I'm spanning work across all genres of sound. I've got vast knowledge of events lighting, knowing how to prepare for each venue and speaking to light technicians before events to ensure the best outcome of photographs, this due to previous experience in venues with very poor lighting. I've grown to become a confident person, both behind and without the camera, finding ease with speaking to people and creating relationships, ensuring future collaborations and friendships. I've come through a difficult time in my life where mental health was the front of myself, but I've pushed through the other side of that and I'm excelling in both my work and myself as a person. University has given me the opportunity to learn more about who I am and the world around me, providing me with the professional skills to further my photographic and videographic career far into the future. I'm excited to see where I'll end up next and what obstacles I'll overcome. Currently I have 2 projects underway and 3 commissioned pieces to be released soon, as well as events to promote over the summer. It's looking really positive for my future, and I'm so grateful for the opportunities and experiences which have developed and grown me into the practitioner that I have developed into today. I'm completely ready to flourish in the industry.